All right, guys, welcome to Tinkering with Taylor, or whatever I end up calling this channel. Today, I've got a Husqvarna LTG 24K54. It's got 24 horsepower Kawasaki V twin in it, 54-inch mower deck. The guy I got this from said that he was using it, and all of a sudden it started blowing a bunch of white smoke from the front and puking gas out. So I pulled the carburetor off and found that the fuel solenoid on the bottom of the filter bowl was loose just a little bit, and that had allowed the filter bowl to loosen up and vibrate, which eventually just wore out the O-ring on the filter bowl. So I got a pack of O-rings from Amazon. I pulled the carburetor apart, cleaned out the jet and the emulsion tube, threw the whole thing in the ultrasonic cleaner for a little bit, and got it all back together while I waited on these O-rings to be delivered. Now just going back together with it. And of course, my wrench doesn't fit between the fuel solenoid and the filter bowl, or the carburetor bowl. So we're gonna have to modify it just a little bit. Now it fits. We'll get this tightened up to whatever I decide the torque spec is supposed to be. Get the wiring freed up a little bit and get the solenoid plugged in. And get the intake put back together here. All right, next step is replacing this battery. I have no idea how old it is, but pretty much every mower I buy gets a brand new battery in it. It's not really worth not replacing it. They're fairly inexpensive, and honestly, it's a good selling point. little bit of degradation on the battery strap. And I'm going to go ahead and put a glove on before I pull this out. Got a new Super Start battery. I always buy the highest cranking amp batteries they have. I think they're around 350 cold cranking amps on the lawnmower batteries. Going to clean the battery cable ends up a little bit. And get them bolted back up to the battery with not new hardware, but different hardware. The old hardware had some little bit of acid buildup on it, and I didn't want to reinstall it. All right, the next step before we attempt to start this, we're going to check the oil level and condition. Level looks good. It's a little overfilled, and that's to be expected because it does have a bit of a gassy smell to it, but it's not too terribly diluted, and I think it'll be fine to run this motor on it just so that we can ensure that this motor runs. And of course, we'll be servicing it later. Now, it does take a little bit of crank time to get the carburetor primed. These fuel pumps that they have on these engines are low volume, low pressure, and they just don't move a lot of fuel. But it fired right up. The choke pulled itself off, which I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to do or not, but it did. And there's no smoke, no fuel leaks around the carburetor. So I think what happened with this was when the fuel bowl started leaking, it dumped a bunch of gas onto the muffler, and that just started smoking like crazy. So we don't have a base engine problem. It was all due to that fuel solenoid being loose and the carburetor just abruptly losing all of the gas out of it. I'm going to go ahead and re-engage the hydrostatic drive so that I can check and see if it will move under its own power, and it does. The linkage needs to be adjusted a little bit with it in the neutral position. It does want to go backwards, but that is an easy fix. And it moves just fine. Now we're gonna throttle it up and down a couple times quickly. Make sure it doesn't stumble, make sure the governor catches it, and engage the blades. The electric PTO works, which is great. Those are very expensive. The bearings sound okay. The deck sounds okay. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off and restart it. And it fires right up. So I'm going to say that this fuel leak, smoking issue, whatever it was, is taken care of. And I'm going to go ahead and move on and inspect the deck. Just making sure it moves up and down properly. This is the tension release for the belt. And all of the deck linkage is held on with clips and washers. So it all comes off really easily. This pulley shield's in my way, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. It had no bolts in it, so I'll have to scrounge some up and get that properly secured. And that's it. 5 clips and the deck is loose. There is one piece of linkage that is bent. It looks like the piece that would hold the deck from shifting or shaking side to side. But I'm going to have to get that straightened out and try to figure out where in the frame that's supposed to engage at another time. I'll have to look up a exploded view or something like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the deck flipped over, let some of this loose debris on top of it fall off, and inspect the blades. They're okay. I can sharpen them and they'll be just fine. Right here I'm checking for play in the spindle bearings and they are all tight. So I'm going to go ahead and get these blades knocked off so that I can scrape the deck and get it pressure washed to some appropriately dramatic music. All right, looking at these blades, they're okay. They have some, they've got some pieces missing out of them, but they are still serviceable. I definitely will be able to sharpen them and get them performing well as soon as I plug my grinder in. Now, one thing to remember when you are sharpening your motor blades is you don't want to make them too sharp. It's a little counterintuitive, but the sharper the edge, the less durable it is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to follow the factory angle, whatever it may be, and clean up the edge, get that factory angle shiny down to bare metal, and then I'm going to go through and dig into where the indents are on the blade, where it's hit rocks or stumps or wood or whatever. I'm going to get that looking good, and then you're going to see me go over the edge of the blade to dull it. And I'm not taking a lot off there. I'm just making sure it's not sharp, because that will greatly extend the life of the blade. All right, we're gonna get these blades popped on. I'm gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on the bolts, just to make sure that they come out easily next time. They came out pretty easily this time, but these blade bolts into the spindles, they do tend to get quite a bit of corrosion on them. And it's just good peace of mind for the next time these bolts have to come back out to ensure that they will come back out. And I'm just going to check one more time to make sure that these spindles don't need to be replaced and they haven't gone bad since the last time I checked them, so I'm not going to order any. This is that bit of linkage that I still have to figure out where it goes. But you can see the major bend in it right there. I'm going to have to keep that up and get that straightened out as best I can. But again, I don't know where that attaches to the frame, so I'm going to have to look up some pictures online. Now, before I get this belt resituated, I'm actually just going to go ahead and take it loose, get it off all the pulleys I can, and give them all a spin and take a listen to them and see which ones are good and which ones are bad. All of the spindle bearings sound fine, but this idler and this other idler and the tensioner. Yeah, those bearings are pretty rough. So those pulleys are going to have to be replaced. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get the belt rerouted and get this deck reinstalled on the mower. And getting it reattached is as simple as getting it kind of sort of close underneath the mower and getting the linkages put back on the pins and the clips put back. And yes, doing this with the brace on is as big of a pain as it looks. Very limiting. And now we're going to get the belt hung back on the crank pulley after I remember to release the tensioner. Make sure it's on all the rest of the pulleys and pull the tensioner back into its keeper. Now I'm just going to give it a quick bath with the pressure washer. This is just a mixture of dish soap and water to get cut into the oil and grease on and around the engine. I'm just going to give it a quick spray. Doesn't even really need time to soak in. This one is, honestly, this engine's, it's just dirty. It doesn't have a lot of oil or anything like that on it. Once I get this mower all cleaned up, the next step is going to be to order the idler pulleys and the tensioner pulley for the deck, which means I'm going to have to pull the deck back out, but like I've said, not really a big deal. I also have a bagger system that needs to be cleaned up and needs a little bit of repair, but I probably won't record that because it's just kind of tedious. So that's going to do it for this one and for me for today, and I will see you next time.